Hey everybody, welcome to the debut episode of the Swamp Road Podcast. As many of you know, longtime listeners, this used to be called the Main Morgue Podcast. As part of a rebrand, I have changed the name to the Swamp Road Podcast, mainly because I don't want to strictly talk about horror anymore. As many of you out there, I am a man of multi-interests and want those interests to be brought out here on the show. This week's show is about horror because I didn't want to leave just cold turkey and go off on a tangent about something else. In the future episodes will be about comic books, comic book movies, Star Wars, my little Funko Pop collection. I have like 70 of those fucking things now. All started because I wanted one. That's a whole show for a different day. But this week's show is about horror. And without further ado, this week's show is about my 10 favorite killers in slasher history. This is not a ranking. I do have 10. I numbered them 1 through 10. However, that does not mean they are ranked in this order. This is just the way I made the list. So, first up, Michael Myers, Halloween, 1978. The methodical movement of Nick Castle as the Shape. The way he stalked the victims and how they were completely unaware of the danger when it was right in front of them. It was magic, and one of the reasons I love slasher movies. I've gone on many times during the entire running of this show and I've said it in interviews, that Halloween is my favorite movie of all time in any genre, and I stand behind that today. Next up, Ghostface, Billy Loomis and Stu Macher from Scream 1996. To me, Scream is not a very scary movie. It's more of a cautionary tale of, if you love horror movies too much, this could happen. It is scary. There are parts that do scare me, but it wasn't like a Halloween per se. I love the way Billy and Stu carried out the murders and how they blur the lines to where you don't know if it's Billy or Stu underneath the costume. Next up, Michael Myers, Halloween 2018. James Jude Courtney did an amazing job capturing what made Michael Myers the Boogeyman 40 years ago in the original Halloween. And yes, he had help from Nick Castle, who's also in that movie as Michael Myers. To me, they really delivered what Michael is in that movie. You're going to hear a lot of Michael Myers on this list and a lot of Halloween on this list because I love Halloween. It's what made me a horror fan. I love all the slashers, but I gotta say Michael's probably my favorite. Next up is Freddy Krueger from the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy was the unknown in this movie. We didn't quite know what to make of him when we first saw him back in '84. Wow, 1984, that's a long time ago. Anyways, he was creepy. He was this burnt, disgusting, gross monster of a man. And the razor knives on his hand just made him unique. And he just played scary throughout the movie. And to this day, we watch that movie in my house a lot because it's my wife's favorite. Freddy is her favorite killer. Nightmare on Elm Street is her favorite series. So we watch those movies quite a bit. And Freddy, to this day, in that movie, scares me. Even though I've seen it hundreds of times. So that's why Freddy is on this list. Next up, Mrs. Voorhees, the original Friday the 13th. To quote Randy Meeks from Scream 2, Mrs. Voorhees was a terrific serial killer. And you gotta feel for the woman. I mean, her son, her beloved son Jason, died because camp counselors were too worried about smoking pot and drinking and fucking to make sure her son was safe, and he drowned. What parent wouldn't want revenge? Maybe brutal murder is a little bit over the line for revenge. Who knows? Who am I to say? But as a parent, I would want revenge. Next up is Ghostface, Mrs. Loomis, and Mickey Scream 2. These killers were simply an evolution of the killers from the original film. Mrs. Loomis, much like Mrs. Voorhees, wanted revenge for the death of her son, even though her son was a brutal fucking murderer. So I could kind of see her point, but not really. And of course, Mickey, the freaky Tarantino film student, was along for the ride. And I love his whole, I'm going to blame the movies, because that was a big issue back then. And it still is today. Violence in movies does not create serial killers. I truly believe that. Anyways, Moving on. I have to wonder if maybe Roman Bridger was behind these two as much as he was Billy and Stu. And I believe that Roman Bridger was involved in the original killings in Scream. For more on that, let me know if you want to hear about it in another video, because I would be more than happy to make that, in another episode, because I don't do video anymore. This is a whole new thing for me, the audio podcast. But let me know in the comments below if you want me to talk about that on a future episode. Next on the list is Jason Voorhees' Jason Lives, which was Friday the 13th, Part 6. The kills in this movie were fucking awesome. And, I mean, the ratings board really ripped this fucking movie a new ass. And there would have been so much more gore and violence in this had they not killed this fucking movie. But in Jason, it came a long way in the first 4 movies of him being the killer. Came a long way. Actually, 3 movies, because he wasn't the killer in 5. Anyways, that's another topic for another video. Jason Voorhees in this movie was just fucking brutal and amazing. Next on the list, Michael Myers from Rob Zombie's Halloween and H2. I put these 2 movies together on this list, and these 2 Michaels, 1 because it was the same actor, and 2 because I love Rob Zombie's Halloween films. Feel free to comment below and tell me that I've lost my fucking mind. It's okay, I realize that. But I love what Rob Zombie did with the Michael Myers character. And yes, I love the original film. Like I stated earlier, it's my favorite film of all time. But that Michael would not have worked in 2007 and 2009, respectively. Fans in that era and in this era really don't want the slow burn. We want fast kills, lots of blood, lots of gore, lots of violence, and the slow burn would not have worked in these movies. I would have loved it, and fans of my age group would have loved it, but the fans of today just want that blood, guts, and gore, and I understand that. As a filmmaker, I understand that. Next up is Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw 3D. I love this movie for many different reasons. I also love Leatherface in this movie. Obviously, he's on the list. I love the relationship he has with the Heather Miller character, even though she doesn't know who she is for most of the movie. And when she figures it out, they come together as a family. And to me, that was something that made a lot of sense and really made the movie stand out more than other films in the franchise. And if you're looking for a direct sequel to Tobe Hooper's 74 original film, this is the one that I go to because it is such an amazing film and it really connects well with the original film, more so than the other quote-unquote direct sequels, in my opinion. Last but not least on this list, I have Jill Roberts and Charlie Walker from Scream 4. These 2 were just fun to watch. This whole cast was fun to watch and grow with and watch them die, because I became invested in a lot of the characters that I knew were going to die, but I was invested in them regardless. I knew early on in the film that these 2 were the killers. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. I knew Charlie Walker was one of the killers early on. I just got that vibe from him. And it wasn't until the phone call between Sidney and Ghostface when he mentions the family ties, the ties that bind, that I go, oh, it's Jill. It's not Robbie, it's Jill. But yeah, I was really mad in the theater because I watched it opening weekend. And I was really mad because to me, it was like, oh, I've seen this movie before. And on in my head as I'm watching the movie. And then after the movie, when I was having lunch with my wife, I said, you know what, that was a pretty decent movie. They really did good. And the best part of that movie for me is when Jill stabs Charlie in the heart and Sidney says to him, and I quote, Billy and Stu, Trevor and you. It was brilliant. I love the way they played that out. It was just totally fucking cool. I absolutely love that movie, and I can't wait to see what they do with Scream 5, even though it looks like it's going to be a soft reboot. I really wanted to see Kirby Reed back as the new final girl, but we'll see how it goes. Anyways, folks, that is all I've got this week. That is my list of my 10 favorite killers in slasher history. This is the Swamp Road Podcast. I'm Jamie Santamore. Please feel free to comment below with questions, comments, show ideas for the future. I would love to do shows that you guys help me generate. I will leave a graphic at the end of the show for all my social media and email. You can email me and find me on social